Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Barb, and I am the host of the Better Together Facebook Live show. I am so glad that you are joining me, whether you're watching live or you could be watching on the replay. This Better Together Facebook Live show is where we come together. We talk about our hopes, our dreams, our worries, and our waistlines. And it doesn't matter where you come from or what you've been through. Here at the Better Together Facebook Live is where we find the hope, the help, and lots of practical next steps because we all want to get better together. And this is a beautiful sunny day in June in my area of the country. Summertime is here. And today our topic is how to have healthy, holy body confidence. Because during the summer, we're shedding off our coats and our long sweaters and pants, and many of us are feeling the pressure that comes along with summertime when it comes to our bodies. So today we're going to talk about where that pressure comes from, as well as what is some hope and some help and practical next steps that you and I can bring into this conversation. And so if you've just not been feeling great about what you see in the mirror, honey, I hear you and I see you. So let's get started. One of the things I wanted to share with you first is every single Monday, I do something called my Happy Monday devotional. And if you receive my Happy Monday devotional, you can let me know in the comments. But I also, once a month, instead of the Happy Monday devotional, I actually send out my Better Together Moments newsletter. And I've got a photo of it right there. And this is the magazine. And this magazine is a once a month issue that you can see. Tabitha, my producer, now is like, oh, wait, Barb didn't do that right. I didn't. You can take that down, Tabitha. But ladies, you can see the magazine. You were supposed to be able to see me and the magazine, but I didn't program it right. But I want to be able to send my Happy Monday devotional to you each week, as well as the magazine once a month. And you can grab it by dropping your name and email. There's going to be a link that Tabitha is going to put in the comments, and I just need your name and email so that I can send encouragement to you every Monday so that you can start your week with a happy Monday. So I want you to join my team, and so that I can encourage you. This is a Facebook Live show that we want you to interact with us. And so I'm so thrilled that you are joining us today as we talk about healthy, holy body confidence. That's a mouthful. So I'd love to start with an icebreaker today, and we're going to pop the icebreaker up in just a moment. The icebreaker today is for you. What are 3 words that you use to describe yourself? This is something that I have studied with women for years. So I would love to hear from you. We've got some folks that have left some comments to say hi. And so I'm so thrilled that you've jumped in and joined us today. But let's start the icebreaker with, what are the 3 words that you use to describe yourself? Carrie, she popped up. Oh, KT, I've known KT for years. She popped up, so much pressure. That is real. That is so real. KT, I'm glad you're joining us today. When you and I are thinking about summertime, I'm going to talk about the 5 ways that we can have healthy, holy body confidence. Because when we are out and we are dressed for summer, we've got a lot more of our natural body that's out there in the world. And if you're like most women, you struggle with how you see yourself in the mirror. And in fact, it was many years ago that I wrote my very first book back in 2015, and it's titled Enough Already: Winning Your Ugly Struggle with Beauty. And I wrote this book because I knew that as much as women love Jesus, when I would speak at women's conferences or events, we would be clapping and praising God while we were in the main session. We'd be talking about God's goodness and his mercy and his grace. And then we would walk out of the main session where there was teaching. And then when it came to lunchtime or snack time, I would overhear women using really difficult words to describe themselves. Words like, oh, I need to lose weight. I need to go on a diet. When I wrote this book, I did a survey with over 500 women from around the world. And I asked those women to describe themselves to me in 3 words. And the 2 words that were at the top of the pile that women used to describe themselves the most, those 2 words were fat and ugly. These were Christian women. And so today we're going to talk about how do we have healthy, holy body confidence? Because when you and I realize that we can see ourselves as God sees us, that reduces the pressure in what we call our ugly struggle with beauty. Now, then, as I talk about these 5 areas about how to have healthy, holy body confidence, what I would love for you to do is I want you to just prayerfully be open to what we're going to talk about today. The very first thing that I want to share with you is that what's on the inside matters most, but it isn't the only thing that matters. And this came up as a result of a verse that women often quote, or pastors often quote, from 1 Peter. And that verse has to do with how a woman should, how she should comport herself. And the verse in 1 Peter is when the writer was talking to women who had basically, they had gone overboard with their physical appearance. And so they wanted to kind of come back. And those verses are, don't be concerned with the outward beauty of fancy hairstyles, expensive jewelry, or beautiful clothes. You should clothe yourselves instead with the beauty that comes from within, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is so precious to God. And so this verse, for many years, those verses have been used, and women have always said, well, what's on the inside matters most. And we have excluded the fact that God created us inside and out. So this first part, number 1, what's on the inside matters most, but it's not the only thing that matters. The reason why we need to start here is because when you say, oh, it's the inside that matters most, then you are neglecting the fact that God created the outside of you, that the outside of you matters as well. When God sent Jesus to die on the cross for us, what hung on the cross? It was Jesus' body. That our bodies have a purpose. The Bible talks so much about how we use our bodies to honor God. And so your physical appearance matters. What's on the inside matters most. Who you are in Christ matters most. Your identity, but your physical body also matters. So I want you to give yourself permission to stop ignoring what you look like on the outside, or most specifically, I want to give you permission to stop ignoring the impact of what you see on the outside. I've talked to so many Christian women over the years who they see themselves in the mirror and it brings them to tears, whether it is something they've been made fun of for their exterior appearance. I've got a story I want to read to you from my Enough Already book. This is a young woman. She said, when I was younger, I was very thin and flat-chested. Even my mother-in-law made a comment that she didn't know what first attracted her son to me because I didn't have a womanly shape. I considered having breast implants for a long time. The woman goes on to say, I struggle with my aging body. I am painfully aware that as I age, I'm being compared to younger women. Right now, as I'm taking the survey that I had in my book, she says, I'd love to drop the facade and go natural, but I don't think the impact would be good for my career. Now, this is a Christian woman who is recognizing the impact of some of what she's heard, the comments about her appearance, and the impact that it's had on her life. And so this leads me to point number 2. And point number 2 is this, that contrary to popular belief, beauty is a spiritual topic. One of the mistakes that we've made as Christian women, particularly Christians in general, is that we have let the world hijack the definition of beauty. When I talk with lots of Christian women, they say things like, oh, they name whatever celebrity who's talking about beauty. And when we think critically about the origins of beauty, one of the main points that I make in the Enough Already book is that God is the creator of beauty, not us. And I want to say that again, that God is the creator of beauty and not us. And what this means for you and I is that we have to stop treating the word beauty like it's a bad word, because God created it. And how do we know this? This is one of those times when we can open up the page of scripture and we just go to Genesis chapter 1. And when we look at Genesis chapter 1, we can read the account of everything that God has created. And so I want to encourage you to read Genesis chapter 1. If it's been a long time since you've read it, and I want you to reflect as you read about God creating the world around us. Think about all of the time you spend in your garden these days and the flowers that you're planting. Who created those? God. Think about all of the money that you've been spending at Home Depot and Lowe's and other home improvement stores on landscaping and gardening to do what? To beautify your surroundings. God cares about how things look. And best of all, God gave what he created, the exterior look of it, his stamp of approval. In Genesis chapter 1, it says in verses, starting in verse 9, it says, God said, let there be waters beneath the sky. Let the waters beneath the sky flow together into one place, so dry ground may appear. And that is what happened. Verse 10, God called the dry ground land and the water seas. And God saw that it was good. Throughout Genesis chapter 1, as God is creating everything that you and I see around us, he makes the declaration that it is good, that it meets his standard. And we're going to talk about the implications more about that for a moment. But when we think about God and how he creates what is beautiful, for you and I, the implications are so important, because in Genesis chapter 1, well, let me see, the third point that I want to make today is this, that you are beautiful because God created you. There's 5 points that I'm sharing today. This is point number 3, and then I'm going to share some practical tips. But of all the points that I make today, I want you to grasp onto this so strongly. Number 3, you are beautiful because God created you. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, 26, God says, let us make human beings in our own image to be like us. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, God creates human beings in the image of God, imago Dei. When you and I stand in front of the mirror, we reflect the image of God. And when God created human beings, he created the exterior as well as breathing in the breath of life. So when we think about our bodies as well as our souls, we stand in the truth that we are beautiful because God created us. And you said, Barb, how can you make a statement like that? Because in Genesis chapter 1, verse 31, you'll see it on the screen. It says, then God looked over all he had made, everything that he had made, all of the bird, the trees, the land, all of that. And it says that he saw that it was very good. And that word very good, if you look up the Hebrew word for very good, it's Taub, T-O-W-B. And that word equals beautiful. When God looked over all that he had made, he saw that it was very beautiful. And because we are a part of the creation that God has made, we can go back. Tabitha, if you can put up point number 3. This is why I can say that you are beautiful because God has created you. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. If you're listening, whether live on the replay, I'm going to go out on a limb here and I'm going to ask you to do something, because I believe that these 7 words can actually change how you see yourself when you are in the mirror, especially if you've been using different words to describe yourself. I don't know what those 3 words that you use to describe yourself, but if they are not the 7 words that reflect God's truth about you, the very first practical thing that I want to do today is I want to challenge you to begin speaking God's truth about you when you look in the mirror. And this applies whether you're a woman, or if we've got the random guy who happens to be watching because his wife is listening in, or because he's just flipping by on social media. I want you to begin to say these 7 words to yourself in the mirror every morning when you wake up. In fact, we're going to practice right here. This statement, I want, instead of the you, I want you to say I at the beginning and me. And so you, instead of you are beautiful because God created you, I am beautiful because God created me. I want you, on the count of 3, I want you to say this with me. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I am beautiful because God created me. Let's try that one more time. I am beautiful because God created me. This, my friends, is God's truth about you. And any negative self-talk that you have going on in your mind right now about the fact that you have a different size, shape, or style than what our culture defines as beauty, that's our culture's lie to us that beauty exists in man-made forms. You are beautiful because you are a creation of God. You are the definition of beauty in who you are, without having to lose a pound, without having to dye any gray hairs, without needing to buy any clothes, without doing any sit-ups, without anything. That you are beautiful because God created you. And if you need to begin repeating that, I want to encourage you to write this on a note card and put it on your bathroom mirror, or type it into your phone, and that you would repeat this to yourself each morning for the next 7 days. And if you do 7 days, then I want to repeat it to yourself for the next 30 days. And the reason why I want you to repeat this statement is so that you begin to build God's truth inside of you to push back against the messages and the pressure that the world is putting on you. Did you capture that? You need to build God's truth inside of you so that you can push back on the pressure of the beauty standards that the world is putting on you. I've got a story that I want to read to you, and this story is from a woman who, as I was asking women to share their stories, this woman, she says, I have struggled with my weight since I was a child. As a kindergartner, I weighed in at 70 pounds. I've never seen anything less than plus size clothing. When I was 19, I was at the smallest weight of my life, a size 16 to 18 pants. I loved the way that I felt, but then I became pregnant, and now I'm at the heaviest weight I've ever been. She says, I don't pity myself so much anymore. I have been immersing myself in difficult Bible studies and realized that God loves me no matter what. She says, now I am learning to love myself. And this is the most important part, friends. She says, I will keep abusing a body that I do not love. Many of us have been fighting this ugly struggle with beauty because we keep punishing our bodies and trying to get them to shift to where we accept our bodies. But the reality is that you will keep abusing a body that you do not love. So the very first practical tip that I shared with you is for you to repeat these 7 powerful words in the mirror every day for at least the next 7 days. And then the second practical tip that I want to give to you is every time you begin thinking a negative thought about your body, I want you to say no. Each time, if you go, oh, I don't like my thighs. No, my thighs are beautiful. Oh, I hate the way that my hips look. No, my hips are beautiful. For me, I've never liked my teeth. Part of what inspired me to write this book is that when I was a kid, my nickname was Buck Teeth. That was, and 4 eyes. This, I actually have a picture of what I look like as a kid because I had a very strong and difficult, ugly struggle with beauty. And so I wanted to show you, this is kind of a rendition of what what I look like as a kid. That's kind of how I saw myself as a kid. I saw myself as a kid who was, I was a small kid. I had pop bottle glasses. I was skinny. I had buck teeth. And when I was a kid and the kids made fun of me, the hard part for me was that my name was Barbara. And I remember my cousins and I, we would play Barbie dolls. And my cousins, they would hold up the Barbie dolls back then and they would say, wait a minute, your name is Barbara, but you don't look like any of these Barbie dolls. And for me, when I looked at those Barbie dolls and I looked at myself, a kid with buck teeth, pop bottle glasses, I was skinny. Like when I looked at all of that, I spent many years battling an ugly struggle with beauty because I was comparing myself to a standard of beauty that did not reflect God's truth about me. And so if you're out there today and you have been fighting your ugly struggle with beauty, it begins with building God's truth inside of us so that we can push back on the pressure that the world puts on us. And so now let's move on to number 4. And number 4 is you will not take care of a body that you do not love. I took that from the story that I just read. And so let's talk about taking care of your body. One of the problems as women that we face is that we put everyone else first before we take care of ourselves. And the problem with putting everyone first is that you and I have lots of people in our lives. There's always someone to take care of. What changed the game for me was when I realized that I had to take care of myself first, and then I would be able to take care of everyone else. It's that old adage with the airline that you've got to put your air mask on first before you can put a mask on someone else. Or you may have heard the saying, save yourself first, and then you can save everyone else. Well, if you want healthy, holy body confidence, it begins with you taking care of you first. And for many of you, you feel guilty anytime you've got to take care of yourself first. I wrote a Bible study titled Beautiful Already, Reclaiming God's Perspective on Beauty. And there's a section where I talk about becoming a woman that cares, CARES. And the reason why I wrote this section is because I struggled with taking care of myself. And one of the situations for me, it was that I had a checklist of everyone that I needed to take care of first. Well, when I realized that I needed to make that shift, it began with one thing. I started with doing one nice thing for myself each day. This was in March of 2003. And I remember that my friend Cindy, she wore jewelry every single day. And I was a mess back then. I'd come off of a hard season of life, and my appearance, I looked awful on the outside because I felt awful on the inside. And Cindy and I worked together at the church. And one day I just said, "Oh, Cindy, I love your earrings." And she said, "You know what? Every morning I wake up and I make sure to do one nice thing for myself." She said, "Sometimes it's just putting on a pair of earrings. Sometimes it's wearing a favorite shirt." And so I went home that day and I looked in my jewelry box. And back then, all of my jewelry had corroded and was really gross. And so I got a pile of old earrings, and I went and I washed them all. Like, I had to soak them in dish liquid and I had to wash them until I cleaned them up. And the next morning, I put in one pair of earrings. I can't tell you how differently I felt that day. And it wasn't about the earrings. It was about the fact that I stopped and I took care of something that would make me feel good. Is God against us taking care of ourselves? Not at all. 1 Peter 5:7 says that we're to give all of our worries and cares to God because he cares about us. And some of the reason that you and I do not have the energy to take care of ourselves is because we are so burdened with taking care of everyone else. I love Sweet Pea. Sweet Pea chimed in and said, "Self-care first always." I love that. And also said, "Right pampering self is necessary daily." That's exactly right. Sweet Pea is watching live on YouTube. For you and I, it only takes a moment for us to do one nice thing for ourselves. And it's not like it's going to cause you to neglect everyone else. For some of you, that one nice thing is giving yourself permission to finally go back and get a haircut. Some of you, that one nice thing that you're going to do for yourself is to take an entire day off without running errands. Others of you, that one nice thing that you're going to do for yourself is you're going to let your kids do their chores instead of you doing them for them. Whatever it is, I want you to practically think and go, can I make a commitment to do one thing for myself at the beginning of each day? And if you need some additional help on what are those nice things, when you sign up for my newsletter, you receive a copy of my Taking Care of You 101 self-care tips for wilderness seasons. So I actually have a list of 101 self-care tips that you can download for free just by signing up for my newsletter. The link is in the comments. And so do one nice thing for yourself each day. And I love Sweet Pea. Sweet Pea says, "I've done one nice thing for myself, which was to relax in peace." That is wonderful. And let me move on to the last thing. And this is something that's personal for me. And it is this: to smile at yourself in the mirror for 1 minute each day. And the reason why I want to close here is because when you and I, particularly the people that we love in our lives, the people that we care about, what do we do for them? We smile at them. The people who mean a lot to us, that we want them to know that we care about them, we smile at them. But I want to ask you a question. When's the last time that you smiled at yourself? Often when you and I look in the mirror, our very first inclination is to find what's wrong with us. And in fact, in the Beautiful Already Bible study, I write, if you give a woman a minute in a mirror, she is going to tell you everything that's wrong with her. I want you to practice smiling at yourself for 1 minute today. And as you do so, I want you, if you need to repeat, "I am beautiful because God created me." Because the temptation is for you to look in the mirror and for you to begin picking yourself apart. I started doing this many years ago because I am God's beautiful, lovable, capable daughter. And when I smile at myself in the mirror, it is a reminder to me that God is smiling at me. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. Do I make mistakes? You betcha. But I can't mess up God's love for me. When God sees me, he smiles at me. And when God sees you, he smiles at you. And so treat yourself like someone that you love, even if you've been struggling, even if you've made mistakes, because you will not take care of a body that you do not love. For some of you, healthy, holy body confidence begins with you treating yourself differently. You won't even need to lose a pound, go on a diet, change your eating plan. It may be that you just need to change how you see yourself and how you talk to yourself. So those are the things that I wanted to share with you today. Next week, my fabulous producer Tabitha and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about these 5 points again. I'm going to do a cooking segment next week, and I'm going to include one of my favorite cooking recipes. If you have questions, if you've got specific things that you want to know from me about how I stay confident, about whether it's how I eat, how I dress, you can drop those comments into this particular episode, and we'll be checking back on those comments throughout the week, because I want you to have healthy, holy body confidence, because you are beautiful, because God created you. So I want to thank you for joining me this week. Next week, I'll talk more about the Beautiful Already Bible study, and you have an opportunity to hear a little bit more about that. But before now, I am so grateful that you've joined me this week. If you want to watch this episode again, it'll be right here on the page. But you can also watch previous episodes at barbruce.com blog page. We upload the previous episodes as often as we can. And you can also watch us live every single Tuesday this summer at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. And so thank you for joining me this week. I'm so glad that you honored me with your presence. Have a great week. Bye-bye.